What's up YouTube? My name is Caden and you're watching Gasset Garage. Today we are doing part 2 of the 1997 4Runner build. Enjoy the video. Alright guys, so to start this video off, I wanted to let you all know I got a new phone which has 0.5, so extra wide filming angle, which is going to be awesome. So anyway, the last video of this project, we got this front bar welded in, and this is the first piece of tubing that I've ever bent, and I have to say it looks pretty good. And this thing is going to act as the rear mount for the winch that I'm going to put on here, and as the front mount for the skid plate that I'm going to build in this video. And also I'm going to do some exhaust modifications in this video. I'm going to cut off that thing under there and put in an exhaust dump valve, so when I open it, this thing will be straight piped and sound absolutely awesome. And I'm also going to hopefully start building the front bumper on this thing, because what I want to do is have a large piece of tubing going across the whole front of this thing about right there. And once I get that thing welded in, then I can weld in some other pieces of tubing going on the sides here. And I'm also going to make a bull bar going on the front to mount a light bar on or whatever else I want to mount on it. So let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit to when that exhaust part gets here and modify this exhaust to make this thing actually sound good. All right guys, so I just got this exhaust valve in the mail, and we're going to be replacing the catalytic converter right here with this valve. One problem I am going to have though is that it's 18.5 inches between either end of this thing under here, and this piece is only about 12 inches long, so I will need to go out and buy an extra 6.5 inches or so of pipe to clamp in here. And this is stainless steel, so I won't be able to weld it with the welder that I have. So what I may do is just take it to an exhaust shop after I get this thing just clamped in here, and they can weld it up for me because it's stainless steel. So let's go ahead and start by cutting out this catalytic converter and getting this thing mocked up in here. Alright, so now that we got this thing cut off, I want to see what this thing sounds like straight piped. Holy cow, that thing sounds good. Pretty loud, but the nice thing about this exhaust valve that I have is that when I close it, it'll still run everything through the muffler and the rest of the exhaust system, so it'll kind of quiet it down a little bit. But that sounds absolutely awesome. So next thing to do is get that exhaust piece mocked up and clamped in. Although I do still have to go out and buy that extra 6 inches of pipe that I need. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, let's see how this thing sounds now that I have that exhaust valve put in, and it's actually closed right now, so it'll run the exhaust out of the actual tailpipe. All right, so that's the sound of the exhaust just coming out of the tailpipe, and it's only going through the muffler because I deleted the catalytic converter out of this thing. So the next step in this process is to get all the wiring hooked up for the actual valve in that thing, so I can actually hook it up to the little key fob that came with it and remotely control the valve. So let's go ahead and get that done. Alright guys, so I'm driving right now, and I just got some batteries put in these little key fobs right here, and now I can remotely control the exhaust valve. So I don't know if you can hear it right now, but this is how it sounds with the exhaust valve closed, and this is how it sounds with it open, if you can hear that. So sounds pretty good, and that's from inside. I'll open the windows in a second. I'd say that sounds pretty good. All right, so now that we have that done, I want to install some 7-inch light bars on the back of this thing, right up there on this guy right here. And what those will be for is when I'm backing up at night, I can turn those on and it'll light up the entire area behind the vehicle, so I'll be able to see. So let's go ahead and put those on, and then I think my winch that I ordered should be here within the next day or two. So we're gonna try and get that mounted as well after I do the light bars. All right, those are pretty good. So let's go ahead and install these on the front, up on top of the hood, right between the windshield and the hood, kind of where that plastic piece is, where the wipers are. All right, guys, so we got these ditch lights installed, and I think they look pretty good. So the next thing I want to do while we're waiting for the winch to get here is I want to go under here and I want to start welding in some mounts for a skid plate that I'm going to be building on this thing, because I want to run a couple pieces of tubing from here all the way back to that frame rail right there, and do the same thing on the other side. And then I'll run a piece of sheet metal, or I may even do a street sign if I can find one. So let's go ahead and bring this thing over in front of the garage where there's some shade, because it is boiling hot outside right now. And I'm gonna bend up some more pieces of tubing and run them from here back to that frame rail. So let's go ahead and do that. So I got these two bars welded in underneath there, and I think they look pretty good. And let me tell you, this was quite a lot of work getting underneath there and grinding paint off, welding, bending tubes, and just everything that's involved with this. It's a lot more work than it looks. So the next step is I have to go out and get either a street sign or a piece of sheet metal. But for right now, I'll probably just get a piece of sheet steel and worry about a street sign later, because street sign would be cool, but I want something that's a little bit more durable and that I can weld to, because I think most street signs are stainless steel, and I don't think I can weld stainless steel. Although I probably will be bolting it on so I can get to everything that's up underneath there. And also, guys, make sure you always disconnect your battery when you're welding on a car, because I have heard where people do not disconnect their batteries, and the moment they strike an arc, it literally fries their entire electrical system. So whenever you're welding anywhere on your car, it's always a good idea to disconnect your battery. So I think my winch should get here tomorrow, so we'll probably do that next. All right, guys, so we just got this winch, and we're gonna install it on the front of the 4Runner. This is a rough country 12,000 pound winch right here, and it comes with this piece instead of the rollers, which is actually kind of nice because it's a lower profile. Then it has a corded remote. It has a clutch disengagement on it, which is nice. It's got a big old giant hook, as well as the mounting hardware and the instructions for how this thing works, which I will read just because I've never used a winch before. So this should be interesting. I have to build some mounts for this thing, and since it is bolt-on, it will be removable, which is going to be nice for maintenance. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's edit some holes into these things. Nice. All right, let's get these things welded in and get this winch bolted on. All right, guys, so we got this winch mounted in here, and I think it looks pretty cool. I don't have any of the electrical components hooked up to anything yet. Right now it's just bolted in, and I do still have to build a lot more metal around it to reinforce it, to make sure it's solid enough to actually pull this car out of wherever I get stuck. In this video, we also got these ditch lights put on, which look really cool. We got this exhaust piece, or exhaust valve, I should say, put up underneath there, and that makes this thing sound absolutely awesome. We also got these rear lights put on, which are super bright, and they're gonna really help me at night backing up. And we also got those two bars underneath there welded in. So we got a lot done in this video. So in the next video of this project, we are going to be reinforcing the winch, mounting that, and building the front bumper on this thing, as well as possibly mounting a light bar and a couple more lights on the front end of this thing. I have a pretty good idea of what I want it to look like, and it is pretty darn cool. And I am going to make it removable, which is going to be interesting, but I'll figure out a way to do that. So for right now, thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment, and I'll see you in part 3, where we're gonna build an awesome tube bumper for this thing. Can't wait. See you next time.